We're so excited to be here for our 10th week. My name is Orlando Morales. I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at the Fifth Avenue Theater, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm so excited to also be joined by...
Hi, I'm Faith. I'm the Education and Engagement Assistant at the Fifth, and I use she, her pronouns.
Amazing. Faith is going to be functioning as our stage manager today and fielding your questions as best we can in the time we have together. Before we get started, let's remember that the Fifth Avenue Theater is on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish, and we honor and thank them. I'm also hoping that we can invoke the memory of all of our ancestors as we continue to negotiate this period of uncertainty. And let's grow some resilience. Learn from the people that have gone before us as we move forward. So excited to be here also with an amazing panel of guest artists. Usually we only have one guest artist, but today, for some reason, we decided to pull out all the stops, and I'm really excited to do so. So why don't we learn who is with us today? I always forget to set this up before we do that. So you're just looking at their smiling faces awkwardly, but now I am prepared to talk about who they are. So with us today, we have Sophie Franco, who is a Latin performer, director, playwright, and interpreter of the status. Oh, interrupter of the status quo. That's dope. Oh, I wish my bio was that dynamic. Sophie is currently editing their play, The Seas of Forgotten Encounters, a bilingual exploration of the spiritual mayhem occurring at the border. They have recently been featured as Rosalia in West Side Story at the Fifth Avenue Theater, Tanya in Native Gardens at Intiman Theater, and Alejandra in B with Washington Ensemble Theater, where they are also a resident actor and the director of Food-Based Joy. Amen, Food-Based Joy. Nik Hagen is a Seattle-based performer who most recently was in the on the fifth stage in West Side Story as Arab. Also Rock of Ages as France, Mamma Mia, Holiday Inn, How to Succeed. He has a BA in theater from Whitman College and has performed at Village Theater in Mary Poppins, and Stage Right and Into the Woods, and the Can Can Cabaret. He believes that any successful piece of art is at its core honest. Even the most exaggerated circumstances with the most extravagant elements, art must remain truthful to the creators / performers. Y'all have bios that like say something. I need to do my bio over. Rico Lastrapes is a Seattle-based actor who has been fortunate enough to perform internationally. He has toured the United States, co-hosting SeaWorld's Kids Generation Nature Live with Bindi Irwin, and has also appeared in Nantes, France, originating the role of Chief Saturiwa in La Caroline, a new rock opera. I should have asked you how to pronounce all of this before we started. He spent a summer in, how do you say that? Ohio town, Rico. Oh, do we not have Rico with us? Oh, he did the mute thing.
Chillicothe.
There we go, Chillicothe, riding horses and swinging war clubs at Kitatati in Tecumseh. Outdoor drama, danced and played saxophone as the Wanderer at Dutch Wonderland in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Idlewild in Legionnaire, Pennsylvania, tap dance and gypsy. I can't believe all of these places in the United States that I have no idea how to pronounce. You've performed at all of them, but you are here now in Seattle, and we are so excited to have you. Thank you so much. And Sara Russell is a Seattle-based performer, teaching artist, and advocate for racial equity and social justice. Sara has been performing professionally for the last 10 years. You may have recently seen her on stage in the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at Village Theater, Urinetown at ACT, Kiss Me Kate at the Fifth Avenue Theater. She has also worked, you are also in Adventure Musical Theater, I would point that out. She has also worked as a casting associate at Taproot Theater Company and is currently the director of Signature Entertainment for NM Entertainment. When she's not working, Sara enjoys playing the ukulele, taking naps, and being a part of Jesse Mercury's Space Nerds podcast. Dude, so many amazing people on our podcast today. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, you got my Facebook page for a second. I am so excited to have this esteemed panel. And I also am excited to introduce one more person because it's our newest segment.
Bum, ba, da, bum, audience spotlight. Yes.
Did you just come up
God.
with our audience spotlight theme song?
It's pretty complicated, but I don't know. Something inside of me just came forth, and
That's great.
What can I say?
Congratulations.
A musical on my heart. Yes. So thank you so much to folks who have submitted their audience spotlight questionnaires. I've got them all. I've got a list. I'm reaching out, and this week is Hannah. Hannah, can you introduce yourselves to us?
I'm Hannah, she, her, and I go to Decatur High School in Federal Way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So for folks who might not have known, people who fill in the questionnaire answer us a series of questions, and now we get to grill them on them and, ask them why. So our very first question is, what is a musical theater song that you'd be slightly embarrassed to be caught listening to? Do you remember what you said?
I said Dentist from Little Shop because my headphones are broken. So all you can hear if you're sitting near me is the drill sounds. So that's a hard one to explain to people, but it's a bop.
A dark bop.
Dark bop.
I mean? Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds like a good playlist. Dark
right,
bops.
exactly. Dark bop. Amazing. I feel like Sweeney Todd would have a lot on that playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, next question. What is a role in musical theater or roles that you would just love to be cast in, but you just know is not going to happen for you?
So, well, they're being a little more open with casting these days.
That's true.
But it's a tie between Aaron Burr in Hamilton and Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar, because they're kind of, for the same reason, they are portrayed as villains in history. They're historical figures, but they were doing at the time what they thought was right or better for the people around them, and it didn't end well. And both of them have some sick bops in their show, like the riffs.
The riffs, they cometh, yes. Also, I just feel like that's such a great actor way of looking at that character, right? I feel like you shouldn't believe that you're doing evil things. You should be like, this is the right choice to make. And then, it's not objectively, but, also I hear, sick riffs on Heaven on Their Minds. I love that. Yes. We here at the Fifth Avenue like to get a little nerdy. So please pick your prologue for the Into the Woods cast recordings. You have the choice of Broadway, London recording, or the 2014 movie film recording. Where'd you go with?
That original Broadway cast, because it's just so special to think like, oh, they're opening on Broadway, and that's so cool. Like, I'm so happy for you.
You're like, in the past, you're like, thank you so much. Well done.
Like, you get your amazing, sweetie.
Yay! Last but not least, we always ask all of our folks on our show to shout out to anyone out there in the universe that they want to give props to. You got someone you want to shout out?
Yeah, so Toby Dykes, the drama director, he's putting together, we're supposed to do the Twilight Zone, that's what I'm hearing. We were doing Beauty and the Beast and it got canceled because of current events, but he said, if you're in the company of Beauty and the Beast and you want to work on this new production over Zoom, you're welcome to go ahead. So we're doing that.
We love creative theater education via Zoom. That's amazing. Well, we're going to jump into our next segment, which is the high note. So you can stay with us because we want to hear what your high note is. And I think we're going to start with it, right, Orlando?
Actually, I was thinking we could start with with you, Faith, if that's okay.
Right, stop it. Amazing.
I didn't think to put it in that particular order. So it would be great if you could kick us off.
And you can
Faith.
hang out, right? Awesome. Okay, so my high note this week is this blog podcast called The Ensemblist. And I love what they write about themselves. They say that it's a online advocate for the talented artists who work in the Broadway ensembles, which is fabulous because there are just incredible people working on ensembles across Broadway. But they've recently come out with specifically, there's all sorts of good stuff on there, but there's also, they recently came out with the State of the Ensemble. And it's a comprehensive report of the 2019-2020 Broadway season breakdown in terms of roles for women, roles for people of color, how many new contracts, or how many people made their Broadway debut. It's just like a fun thing to sort of toil around on because there's lots of cool stuff in there. So definitely check it out. I will put a link in the chat.
Cool. All right, thanks. So the Ensemblist blog and podcast. Thanks, Faith. Next up, we got Sara Russell. What's been giving you some joy? What's your high note been this past week?
Yeah, my high note this past week is I have been binge watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yes. I highly recommend everyone to watch it. I'm probably to you, I'm old in the sense where I watched it when it first came out on Nickelodeon in like 2006 or something like that. Four nations lived together but it is harmony. So entertaining. Then, a lot of everything changed when the firebenders still hold up today and are very true and comment on our society. So I highly recommend watching it. I binge watched the whole thing in about 2 weeks because each episode is only 20 minutes long, and it's also beautiful. All the drawing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna shout out too. I give them props for their food. You watch the show and whenever they're eating something, it's amazing. So
yes, so I highly recommend it. I recommend to not watch the movie. They made a movie of it and it's not good. Don't do that. Watch the TV show. It is everything.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Last Airbender on Netflix. Rico, what's been your high note this past week?
To work as a team to give the best.
All right, so bear with me on this one. I'm a huge fan of the Summer Olympics. I watch them every time they come around, and I'm pretty bummed that they're not happening this year. But John Oliver from Last Week Tonight mentioned that he's going to be sponsoring the 2020 Marble League, and I was like, oh, I love the show, I'll check it out, and I got so hooked so fast. I have my favorite team already, and it's just silly fun, but it's awesome to hear this guy creating brilliant sports about something as silly as marbles. So yes, once you're done binge watching Avatar, because that's definitely
enough. 97 flat.
I definitely recommend watching some of these. It's just so silly. It's just silly fun.
Taking the lead early on, 9-8.
Okay, this looks dangerous. So I would definitely be getting into this. This is the Marble League on
Definitely
YouTube.
Try at home too.
Oh yeah, I used to do this as a kid, but not like to this. I'm jealous of the production values here. So thank you, Rico. Everybody, check out the Marble League on YouTube.
Oh, she had it.
And what was the next one? Oh, This Is Me. Okay, so my high note from this past week is a production of Much Ado About Nothing that the Public Theater did in 2019. And shout out to Faith for hooking us up with that list of PBS streaming, because there's some amazing things on it. And this has been probably my favorite thing that I've seen. I was not very familiar with Much Ado About Nothing. And this cast just was so much fun. You'll see Danielle Brooks on there. Who is, you might have seen Danielle in The Color Purple or in Orange is the New Black. And Anthem Coleman is amazing too. So that's the Benedict and the Beatrice. And so I just thought it was an amazing production. Not something I was expecting. And just highly recommend it. Y'all should check it out. I had not laughed out loud for any other kinds of streaming things during this period, so
truly
check it out.
Friendly recompense.
Okay, let's go over to Hannah. Hannah, you have a high note from this past week.
I do. So Samantha Polly from Evita, Six the Musical, obscure stuff.
Hey guys.
She has been doing a thing since the first day of quarantine where every day she sings a song.
And today I'm
and this particular day she was in costume.
Got a request for Memory.
And she sings Memory from Cats. So
I thought I would really get into character today.
and it's the best thing ever.
Here she is. Here's Grisabella. She ready. I
You got
haven't
red
seen the
hair,
Cats
yes.
movie. Did not want to pay money to see that in theaters.
So y'all check out Samantha
I'm not
Polly's
like a huge
version
Cats
of Memory
person
on YouTube.
anyway.
Thanks, Hannah. Let's see, Nick. I said that I'd fix this, but I didn't. So tell us about your high note, and then tell us what it really was supposed to be.
It doesn't need to be fixed.
Let's go over to Sophie. Sophie, what was your high note for this week?
So since everyone's been making bread and stuff, I pulled up a video from years ago called How to Not Make Bread, and I disagree. Pretty hilarious and it's been bringing me joy.
Okay, we gotta get to, yes, there you go. Let me get some volume on this. How did you find this video?
My friend sent it to me, and I've been watching it ever since. Just feels extra relevant now that we're all working.
Okay, this is dope. Definitely check this out. This is How Not to Make Bread on YouTube.
I feel like
Wait, we didn't even see.
Literally what I'm doing.
He's ripped off his shirt.
Did not need that bread for nearly enough time to develop the proper gluten for the rise that he was trying to go for.
So true, Orlando.
Thank you. I've not been baking bread. I've just been watching videos about it. But this is probably going to be my new favorite. Thank you, Sophie, for that. And Hannah, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on and sharing your favorite things and getting a little nerdy about musical theater with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hope you have an amazing weekend. And we look forward to having more audience spotlights in the future. So hopefully y'all fill out that thing or fill out Faith's questionnaire, and we'll get some of you on here. She just left.
Fill the form.
She's like, peace.
Oh, bye.
All right, cool. Faith, I'm kicking it back over to you.
Amazing. So as many of you know, Fridays the 5th is a program dedicated to bringing together students who want to learn more about the craft of musical theater. Whether you're curious or just, deeply passionate like some of us, we want to empower the next generation by giving you a chance to interact with theater professionals who have dedicated their lives to doing this work. So that's what we're going to do. To our audience, please don't be shy about dropping questions in the Q&A box or even in the chat. I'll pick them up there. And just as a heads up, as we always say, we love a question that begins with the word how. Like, how's it like to be in an ensemble?
That's great. Thanks, Faith.
Thank you.
I actually am really excited about this particular group of performers here today, because not only are you amazingly talented, but I also feel like you're very kind and compassionate people, and you have a lot of insight on how to be good people, as well as how to be kind of successful and well-adjusted up on the stage as well. So I'm interested. I know that a lot of our audience members were teenagers. They're in high school. There's those moments when the cast gets posted up on the wall. There's all this anxiety that's kind of, am I going to get the part that I like? I really was hoping to be this lead role, and I wasn't thinking that I'd be in the ensemble for my senior show. That kind of anxiety that I think is really unique to high school in some ways. And I know at some moment when you breach that threshold into working as a professional and encountering these ensemble type roles out in the professional world, I'm wondering what shift, if there was a shift for any of you, or a moment of realization that this is kind of like a different thing with maybe a different set of anxieties or new things that you were excited about that you weren't before. I know there's a million questions in there, but anybody who wants to speak to any of those, please kick us off.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that I picked up on that question is I know definitely when I first transitioned from doing theater in high school to doing it professionally, I know I was kind of oh, okay, maybe they'll call me in for these lead roles, but then I had to remember compared to all these other people, I'm a child. And like it makes sense that I'm put in the ensemble because there's so much to learn. And for me personally, I did not go to school for theater. I started working, I did AMT right after high school. And so I know for me being in the ensemble too, I learned a lot by watching others. And so it's not just about, you know, am I the one who can like show off or like, oh man, I'm just in the back of the ensemble. You actually can learn so much by watching other people, by taking notes of how people move, choices people make, and it really can apply to all aspects of theater. So I really appreciate and love the ensemble because I feel like it's an opportunity to learn so much about yourself, about how you fit in a puzzle, about how theater works in a way. And I think that's something that's very valuable and that I don't think I realized until later on in life when I got older, that I was like, oh, actually, I'm learning a lot of skills by being in the ensemble because I'm having to make choices for myself. And I'm not necessarily being told what lines to say or told like, oh, okay, like you need to react this way. It's like I actually kind of have a freedom in making those choices. And it ended up being more fun because I'm like, oh, like I can decide that my character's name is Banana and like I really don't like this person. And like anytime they're around, I'm going to actually actively avoid them. Not saying that's what everybody does, you know, but I just feel like there's definitely like a learning curve that happens, you know, because I totally understand when you're in high school and
Oh, we lost Faith for a
you're
second.
like, I want to do it. I want to just be active at being a lead. Faith, come back.
I mean, no, it was,
Oh,
so I just did the worst thing, Sarah, and I called you by your mom's name. Anyways,
you said I'm Faith.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? I shouldn't have even said that.
I thought you meant Faith, and I was like, oh, where did she go? I see her.
Hi to Faith.
Oh,
Russell,
that's funny.
Professor.
Sorry. I don't know. My thing said your internet's unstable, and I was like, you're lying. You're unstable. But so sorry. I'm Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
But some of you may know Faith. She's also an actress. She was in Annie at Fifth Avenue 2 years ago. I don't remember what I was saying, so I'm done.
Rico looks like he was about to unmute. Oh.
No, I was just trying to swipe over. I have nothing to add. I think Sarah said amazing things with that entirely.
Yeah, I'll hop on just to what Sarah was saying. Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to emphasize like the amazing opportunities, like learning opportunities, but just in general, like just because I didn't get the character that I think that I fit the best or that would be the most challenging for me, doesn't mean that the character that I've been given and the circumstances that I'm given do not also make me a better artist. You know, I think like taking something that you didn't expect or necessarily like we're hoping to engage with, and taking it and seeing it as a gift and that it will make you better. Like every single role, no matter how small, will make you a better artist. And also, I mean, half the fun is getting to like live in this person that I never thought I would get to live inside of. So it's really all about how you are interpreting your circumstances.
And to piggyback off that idea also, I think one of the things that I had to learn was breaking the mindset of theater being like a hierarchy. Because I think in high school, you know, at least for me, my experience, the director was like, you know, a teacher, and you know that's like authority, and so therefore like they kind of had this like ranked system of like, you know, director and then like leads and then ensemble were like, and then you were constantly comparing yourself to other people and like finding out where you existed in this hierarchy. But it wasn't until I started to work in the industry professionally that I learned that theater, and like also in some of my college experience as well, that like theater is, when done correctly, it's a collaboration across the board with everybody. And so I think being a part of the ensemble is equally as important as being a lead, because it's just filling a different part of this like collaborative puzzle of putting on a piece of theater. And I think it's really freeing and delightful to be a part of that process, no matter where you are in it.
And also I feel like it provides a completely different and unique set of incredibly big challenges. Like, I would love for someone maybe to talk about like some of the things you have to handle as, you know, someone who's in the ensemble, as opposed to someone who has like one, you know, one character and one track. Like, what are some things that you encountered as an ensemble?
Tracking can get crazy.
Tracking. That's a monster. Yeah. I think that's actually both like the biggest challenge and the biggest thrill of being in the ensemble is getting to explore all those different characters, figuring out, okay, I have 2 minutes to transition from this character to this other character. Total mind shift, total different place. Like, I think one of the best experiences you could have as a young artist is doing an ensemble-based show, something like Lanford Hughes' is it? Book of Days, or I got to do this play called Shipwrecked when I was in college, and we expanded it from a 3-person into a 10-person ensemble. So we only had one lead and the 10 people who did everything else. And the way that the show was constructed was kind of like Peter and the Starcatcher, where, you know, we're kind of building the stuff as we go. And so you really get to play and explore with your environment as an ensemble member in a way that you don't really necessarily get to when you're doing a lead, because you have to focus on driving the story so much as opposed to creating the world.
Yeah. Did anybody find that, has anybody found like an ensemble track like especially like challenging and like speak to how you kind of were resilient or got through that?
Yeah. I was in a show called Nickeled and Dimed my sophomore year of college, and I played 13 different characters. And it was like, I mean, I think I actually did some of the best work I ever did in college because I was really trying to make them individuals, you know, and that like gave me, it really helped me just up my game as an actor, because it was like even if the scene was 2 minutes long, it's like, who is this person? What do they want? What are their tactics? Like, what do they need? And finding the needs and the true like impulses of those people, it was like, it was crazy. There were times when like people forgot lines and, you know, I just had to improvise things, but because I knew my character well enough, I could save my scene partner because I was like, I could just improvise in those people. So it was crazy, but really fun.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 years ago, I think we did The Noteworthy Life of Howard Barnes at Village Theater. And we, in the ensemble, I think everyone played probably about 8 to 9 characters that were always ever changing. And you were, because it was a one act, you're always either singing on stage, or quick changing. It never stopped, which actually, I love those shows where you don't stop because you don't have time to be tired. You don't have time to think. And it's like, great, I'm going to prepare so much and have so much fun. Like once we have rehearsal and we get the basics and we understand where we're going, then you get to, like kind of Rico said, create the world, and you get to be the ones to fill in the blanks. Because honestly, if you think about these shows where we had leads and things, like, you know, I don't know, take The Sound of Music and like you just have Maria and the children, like you're like, wait, but where are you? Like, what are your circumstances? What is going on? And you need the ensemble to fill it out. And it's really fun to get to decide who those people are. Like in Howard Barnes, I played like a dream girl 1 second, and then I was a jet from West Side Story the next, and then I was a lawyer, like just loyal girl. And so it was like, okay, how do they walk differently? How do they speak differently? How do I carry myself differently from each person? And it's really fun to play and be like, oh, you know what, today I'm gonna pretend I have a hunchback and see what that feels like. Or like, today I'm gonna have a lisp and see what that sounds like. And you really just get to create these people from the ground up, which I think is one of the most fun things you can do in theater.
It's like the most fun thing about theater.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
bouncing kind of off. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, bouncing. Oh God, what was I gonna say? Bouncing off of that. I forgot. It's fine.
I'm sorry. I'm out of squash it. We do have like Julia asked kind of a related question about, you know, how to create characters, and this is kind of becoming a conversation. I know, Nick, we were going to ask you specifically, when there is little text to go off of, with these ensemble parts, how do you specifically start to create that character? Or maybe you can speak about a specific role that you've had that you kind of constructed.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the kind of what I touched on earlier about it being a collaboration and like, creating a piece of art as a group of people, you also like what that means is that you also bring your artistry to every process, no matter what role you're playing, whether you're in the ensemble or a principal role or whatever. And I think that's what can be so exciting about being in the ensemble is sometimes you're given so little. And I think one of the things that I do is first think of the show as a whole, kind of like you do with any character. Even if you have like thousands of lines, you need to understand the world that the play or the musical is existing in, and knowing how you can fit into that in a believable way. Like there are some shows that live in this like heightened, bubblegum reality, and others that are much more serious and much more, I don't know, less extreme. So like even in the context of theater, like someone in a play like Noises Off, like a British farce, does not belong in the same world as like an Albee play, that's like super, angry. Like those are not the same. And so looking at what show you're in and what sort of world it exists in, and understanding how to start from there, and then you can start to like really create whatever it is that you want. Like, why is my character at this restaurant? Like, why am I on stage? And sometimes, and what can be tricky about musical theater specifically is sometimes the answer is they just wanted to have a bunch of people on stage to like make it fun and cool. But that's your challenge as an actor, to be like, okay, like, so, and is this like, an extension of this person's experience, or am I like an external being in this thing? Am I a person walking down the street and I get swept up in it? Like, you get to decide for yourself how you want to approach that. And I think as long as you create something that makes sense to you, it makes sense on stage, unless the director is like, hey, why were you, upside down when everyone else was not? Then you get to collaborate and make new decisions.
And one thing I'll like piggyback off of that, I know for me, I like to use my surroundings and people I know as a base point. Like my mom and my sister are some of the funniest people I know. And so sometimes I will maybe start with a character, and if there are things or in the situation, I'm like, this kind of makes me think of my sister. And I'm like, I'm going to base this character off my sister. So how does my sister walk? How does my sister talk? How does she hold herself? What is her inflection in her voice? And then that kind of helps me find something. Or like, oh, maybe I have a teacher at school who I think is really interesting, and like they have a certain inflection in their voice. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to start by maybe taking people I know and my surroundings to start building characters. And once you kind of create your own tool belt, or like your toolkit of maybe character, like ways of walking, or like even like accents, and not saying you should go to a show and just start speaking British like that, but like inflection in your voice, like those kind of things. I think really using your surroundings and people I think we all have people watched before too. If you like go to the mall and just kind of like look around your surroundings and think like, oh, that person like kind of has an interesting walk, I'm gonna try that. Or like, oh, that person like they kind of speak higher, so like I'm gonna try that too. And that's when you're like, wait, I think I might have found a character. So you kind of like, I think of it as like a Mr. Potato Head doll, if you ever seen those, and you get to choose what eyes you want to put on and choose what hat. I think creating a character is the same way in a sense.
Yeah, I love that you kept using try, and that's the thing is like we focus so much on the product that we have all this rehearsal time. As an ensemblist, you have all this opportunity to just explore all the different ways that you can fit in this world, right? Try one thing. I mean, obviously don't change the blocking when the director blocks you to do something, but like change your walk, change all these different little things that will help you enrich the world, enrich the character even more.
Yeah, totally. I would say that it's about specificity within your character. The more specific you are, the more real that person is. And, the more specific the notes you receive will be. If you're like, I don't know what to do, it's because you need to make a choice, and then the director can be like, that's great, or that's bad, or change that, or adjust this, and it will help you to be very specific.
Do you ever worry about making such specific choices in the ensemble that you are pulling focus?
I was going to say, know that you may come to a moment where the director says that's too much, and you're like, great, I'll pull it back. But I think the best, and I think I've had many directors say, I would rather pull you back than have to ask for more. So I say make big choices, and then if they're like, hey, can you pull it back a little? You're like, great, I can make the same choice, but make it a little smaller. Like that cartwheel I did, maybe not, but at least I can have the same energy as a cartwheel. You know, I think, yes, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Not always, you know, obviously like nothing crazy. But like, I think that is a great point of like, sometimes it can feel scary to be like, I'm going to try something big, and like they might not like it, and they might not, and their director, they're allowed to say no, like they do have the final say, but they appreciate it so much more when you come in and make choices, and then they can say yes, no, yes, no, yes, 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 and then you'll find it. Again, going back to like, it's a collaboration at the end of the day, and you're just bringing your piece of the puzzle to the table.
My freshman year of college, people would always say like the slogan was "Dare to Suck." So like, just dare to suck. Make a big choice. It might suck, but like, dare to suck.
And I think that one of the things that like we forget is we're quick to assume that if we're a part of an ensemble, we're just like one of many on stage. But sometimes like when you make those bold choices and you make those really like specific choices, that's sometimes the solution for the director of like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how we're going to get to this next beat. Or like, you know, like I remember my first show at the Fifth, I was an intern, and, you know, like walked into the whole thing and was like terrified because no one knew who I was. I was, you know, just a budding professional performer, and, you know, was in the opening scene of How to Succeed and felt very much like an intern. You know, all the men were like in suits, and I was like this like male boy, and I was like, well, great. But I started making really specific choices about who that male boy was, and like kind of using some of my own experience of like being nervous, and like, so I was like pushing this cart around, like taking mail and like terrified of everyone. And then from that moment, I just had like this quick little pass across the stage, but that got turned into something more because I was able to make a specific choice, and because there was something about the way that I was doing it. They were like, oh, that's interesting. Let's like, how about now you know, come down here and now chase, you know, Finch across the stage and around a circle and then off. And like, that gave, you know, you get to offer an idea to the director, and they can either be like, that's too much, no, we need to edit that. Or they're going to be like, oh, that's so much fun. Like, let's keep going with that and make it part of this picture. And it's an exciting experience.
Okay, so I'm hearing specific choices. Sorry, like, so I just want to highlight some things that I'm hearing. So being able to make specific choices, being able to observe the world and make that into I like how you said Mr. Potato Head, but like a toolkit, having like almost like a toolkit of different things that you know you can do or play with. And then also this idea of being able to find your niche within a collaboration of a performance, of a rehearsal, especially understanding what the director's vision is and trying to support the directors. I think some really great points to highlight. Sorry, Rico, go for it.
I was just gonna tack on real quick. Speaking about pulling focus, and that, you know, it's not just a wash of people on stage. I had a director who once said, in a house of 100, there are always at least 6 eyes on you, 6 pairs of eyes. So like the ensemble, even you may feel like it's not a big deal at times being in the ensemble, but you're so essential to I always go back and creating the world, but you're so essential to that world that like those 6 eyes that are watching you when you're slacking and you're not fully invested in the world are now pulled out of the show. Doesn't matter what else is going on stage. So I think you pull focus more by being less engaged and less specific than you do if you are fully invested in what's going on at all times.
I'd love, there's a question that just popped up here, Faith. Did you see that last one about understudies?
I did. Oh, and I unmuted myself and I answered that question. Yeah, so our question is, how often will ensemble members who also serve as understudies get rehearsal time? I think like even just bringing up the idea of ensemble members who are understudies is also a good point.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger thing, is that you're not always an understudy if you're an ensemble. And has anybody here specifically been on an understudy contract before? Yeah, so yeah, y'all can speak to it, testify.
Who's first?
You are.
Me? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've done a lot of understudying and swinging, both internal, meaning I was in the ensemble and understudying a role, and external, meaning I was just in the show. When I was in college, one of my directors had a thing where he cast an understudy for every single person that was in the show. And as an understudy, we just sat there. We sat and took notes. If we wanted to stand up and do part of the dance, we could. He believed in understudy rehearsals during the rehearsal process. The man I was understudying was an internal understudy for a lead. During that rehearsal, he went up on his lines. We were doing sideshow, by the way. So a lot of recitative language, a lot of lines when you're in that show. The guy that I was understudying didn't have enough time to practice his understudy stuff on his own because he was in the show. The director didn't care, pulled him out of the show and threw me in because I was sitting there and I took the notes and stuff. So there are all kinds of crazy understudying experiences. Every theater I've worked with has done it differently. Some theaters do rehearsals starting when the show opens. Some just do put-ins. When I was doing In the Heights in Florida, we had a lot of understudies end up going in. The only thing that I can really say is you will never be told to not practice, right? If you're an understudy and they're not paying you to show up to rehearsals, the stage manager, more often than not, if you reach out and ask, they will say yes, by all means, come to the rehearsal, sit in, shadow the rehearsal. Paul, who was the swing in West Side Story, is a phenomenal example. He had a little table set up, taking all the notes for so many jets. And then anytime there was a dance, he would stand up and do the full dance in a contained space. And it's that kind of drive that makes you feel prepared when you go in. Speaking of West Side, I had to half cover Chino's track. And so before that happened, I was very grateful that I decided to take the time to run Chino's dance stuff prior to my entrance of every number. So it's really in your hands of how you can handle the pressure, but every director and every stage manager and every person in your cast will thank you for doing the work. Half cover, what that meant was that I did my track in the show as well as doing his dance parts. He tweaked his ankle, so he was still able to walk and do his scene work. But they asked me to cover all the dance. So I would do my dance stuff and then transition into his dance stuff and then go back to my track, essentially. My role.
Like we said, being in the ensemble is super easy and just like in the background.
Yeah, there's another big difference between the high school ensemble and the professional ensemble is that there's a truckload of other responsibilities that go along with it. Sorry, I was trying to read body language to see if anybody else wanted to speak to this point. But I guess we're cool. Hey, can I keep it on you, Rico, just for one, to pivot the question a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
You, I know we've talked in the past about you kind of finding that the ensemble tracks that you would get, and especially kind of you yourself as the ones that were very dance focused. Did you always see yourself as like a dancer, coming up? And...
Not at all. I went to an arts high school as a saxophonist. They became one of the top music schools in the country, and my introduction to musical theater was playing in the pits. I was singing in a ska band with friends, and I was told, Rico, you can't sing. So musical theater, I thought my path was going to be simply playing music and writing shows. That was what I thought. And then I auditioned for a show after my senior year of high school and got in the ensemble of Beauty and the Beast. And I was also assigned as a little dance captain of our section. And I was like, oh, I have rhythm, cool. And I guess that made sense. I've been playing music all this time. And I guess I connected dance to music enough that it came kind of naturally to me. But I never saw myself as a dancer. Even now that I've done 2 of the biggest dance shows, it took that before I finally was like, oh, maybe this is what I do now. Because it just, I'm an actor first, or musician first, always. That's the way I view myself. But through everything, I've always seen, okay, how can I grow? How can I work on my weakest link? I need to constantly work on the weak link, right? Because no matter who you are, no matter where you are, there's someone out there that's better than you in something. So you can either whine about it or you can try to get better. So I worked on my dance and took classes and kept working on my music as well. And suddenly I realized, oh, I can't call myself just a mover because I've worked too hard. So yeah, it's been a really interesting shift. I'm very grateful that I showed up at a time in this city that they were looking for male dancers, and that it was very serendipitous that I was ready at the time those roles were starting to show up. But if you are a theater practitioner, you are an artist. And I would really urge everyone to obviously know your strengths and know your weaknesses, but keep working on those weaknesses, because you literally have no idea what the casting director and what the director is going to see in you. On the other side of the coin, Sister Act, which unfortunately didn't happen, I was cast as a freaky high falsetto singer. And I was like, I'm a tenor too, what's going on? But they saw something in me and I rose to the challenge, because that's, that's the way I try to live, is, rise to the challenge, make yourself better.
Yeah. No, thank you. I really wanted to speak to that, because I think we do have a lot of people in the audience that, when they're as high school performers, they're like, I'm not really a dancer. So hearing that,
I didn't dance till after high school.
Yeah.
I didn't take a single class until after high school.
There can be an evolution there. Hey, Sophie, I'm wondering if I can kick a question your way. We had a question last week that was about people negotiating, non-binary people negotiating the world of dance auditions. And I know you work a lot outside of musical theater as well, but we have to be real about the fact that musical theater is very binary, just in its landscape right now. And that's, a lot of that is just, what the texts that we have that are considered canonical and, part of U.S. history. But, things are changing. I'm wondering if you can speak to what it's like to negotiate that landscape as you, as an artist.
Yeah, well, okay. In regards to dance calls, TBH, I don't really do them because I'm not frequently a musical theater. However, if I were running a dance call and I wanted people who are non-binary to feel welcome, I would say that there is a healed dance call and an unhealed dance call. And that's all that really needs to be said. So people can show up if they're like, great, I can dance in heels super well, then whoever can do that can do that. Yeah, so that's what I would say about that. And then just in terms of like navigating roles and auditioning and stuff like that, I am a non-binary actor. I also acknowledge that when people look at me, I am very traditionally feminine. I am curvy. I used to have really long hair, so folks tended to cast me in certain really, really feminine roles. And for me, that doesn't bother me, because I've been really lucky that thanks to my really vicious eyebrows, I've gotten to play some really intense female strong leads, which is super cool. But no one's ever cast me in a traditionally male role. I think I played Viola a few years ago. That was totally in the zone for me in that way in terms of the androgyny. But for me, I feel like I can show up to a casting call and I can do male Shakespearean monologues, and why wouldn't I do them? If there's something in the canon that I feel like I can do, then I'm just going to speak the words. And I'm not like, for me personally, I'm not tripping about like, what does the auditor want me to do or whatever. I don't really, like, that's not useful. When you're going into an audition, don't think about what does the auditor want me to do. Think about like, what am I good at? What is special and unique about me? And that is how you will shine in the room. So like, I will continue to audition for stuff whenever that happens again. And perhaps I will audition for traditionally male roles, but in general, like, what is interesting to me about acting is just is all of the different people that I can play. So you know, hopefully there are directors out there who are like, great, I want you to play Iago. Sick, cast me as Iago. But with musical theater, you know, it is a little tradition. It is more traditional and restrictive. And I'm like, great, let's do new musicals. Let's write new musicals.
Yeah.
That's
Hear
what I
that, y'all?
think.
You're stuck in your rooms. Let's have y'all write us some new musicals over there. Sarah's back.
Let's write a musical.
Sarah,
I'm back.
welcome back.
I only had to I've never happened before, of course, so.
No, it's cool. But you're without your
But I
unicorn
made it.
headphones, but you're here. You're the only one we haven't kicked a specific question to. So I'm wondering if we can ask you a little bit, you know, you've worked all over town, you know, at all these different theaters, which is great. And I'm wondering if you can speak to, I'm changing up the question a little bit from what we discussed, but we've been talking a lot about like specific skills or traits that you've, that are going to benefit somebody who wants to be successful in ensemble type roles. Have you learned anything about yourself, or how about let's phrase it this way? What are some specific skills or traits that you've come to realize are really helpful as an ensemble performer?
I personally, one of my mottos for myself is respect, and respect for others, respect for myself. And I've learned, it's funny, it's like, I've learned that is actually really helpful, especially in an ensemble room, because I, as an actor, give respect and space for everyone to create, but then I also give myself respect and permission to create as well. And I think having respect for people in the room, having respect for a process can really take you really far. And so, and just knowing your own morals and values. And I think because of that, it helps me play and to be like, I'm going to choose to play and make choices and make sure I'm still being respectful of who is on stage or who is around me. And I'm going to give, and it's give and take, right? So it's like, I'm only going to give if you give me permission to give to you, because I respect you as an artist and I respect what you're giving. And then I have respect for myself of like, what am I willing to do and not to do? What am I willing to put myself in, or my own experiences, and what am I not? I'm one where I'm such an empath, but sometimes, especially when shows are very sad, I can get really like down and just be like, oh, this is like, they're sad, and so I'm sad, and like, we're all sad. And I'm like, okay, wait, no, but like, that doesn't respect the process, and that doesn't help what's going on. So how do I respectfully put myself in this and support what's going on? Yeah, that answers the question, right? But so I just, one is like respect, and then two, I just love to play. So it's also the respect of like, can I play with you? And someone can say yes, or they can say no, and they can say, you know, I really have like something I want to do. And I'm like, great. So I'll be like, do you want to play? And they'll be like, yeah, let's bounce off each other in the scene. So I think like, I love to have fun. I'm always the one who like has my character, you know, name is Banana, or like, oh, like my backstory is like, I stole a banana from this person. And so, you know, like, I don't know, but I think when you find and figure out kind of like the things that are drawn to you, you know, like, why do I like this story? Why did I want to be a part of this show? Can really help
draw in things all around you. It's funny because we talked about this question a little differently earlier, and one of my thoughts was because it was like, how do you also know what shows you want to audition for, and like what do you want to be a part of? And I know for me as a person of color, I also have to think of, how am I represented in this show? How will this story represent me if I, as a person of color, am now in this story? How can I also use my voice to say, you know what, like, I'm not sure if this point of view is the same, or I'm not sure how I feel about this. Can we talk about it? And I think that's one thing that's really beautiful in a lot of like rooms now, is that conversations are more happening, and just, okay, yeah, how does this story change maybe that I'm here? And I think, yes, mine is specific as being a person of color, but that also can pertain to if you are non-binary, or if it's like, I want to, you know, play something different. It's like, I don't know, I guess I'm also saying that conversation is also really important. And if there are things that you're like, I think we should acknowledge this, or I think this is something we should talk about, advocating for yourself is also a big thing. That was kind of a big circle, but I'm sticking with it.
It was awesome, Sarah.
Love it. Anybody else on the panel want to speak to like their, you know, oh yeah, this is the skill that I think
Their essential ensemble skill.
Your essential ensemble skill.
I think Sarah hit it on the head, honestly. It's just having respect for everyone in the room and their process as well as yours. And, you know, being willing to acknowledge your mistakes, you know, being willing to just try to be a good person in the room can make a huge difference. So yeah, I have nothing but to say, but yes. Yes to everything she said.
Can I also say that if you do have special skills, like I could do a cartwheel, or like I know how to juggle, like I would totally say those things, because there are times I've been in shows where someone's like, I do a really cool like skateboarding trick, and then it was in the show. So like, don't also be afraid to be like, can I try juggling in this scene? And then they can say no, but if they're like, can you juggle? And you're like, actually, I'm amazing. And then they're like, wow, forever we'll all laugh at the time you asked to juggle and they said yes, and now it's in the play forever.
Yeah.
I totally once made my eyes crooked for a character, and I just had the crooked eyes like all the time as my character.
Come on, crooked eyes. So that's your essential skill.
It used to be on my special skills list.
Nik just like bent himself in half casually in front of the you know.
So that's a skill that you feel like everybody should have as an ensemble member.
No, that's my ensemble essential. It's just a leg.
That's great. Well, Trina Mills last year set, I don't know if she did this on air, but she set the goal for me to touch my toes by the end of this quarantine period. And maybe I'll take some action on that. Hey friends, well, thanks. I wish my mom said stuff like that. She's great. My mom says things like that all the time, actually. Okay, so friends, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. I could talk to you all weekend. You're such an amazing, talented group of individuals, and I can't wait till the day that we can see y'all back on stage. You know, until then, I know this is a pretty difficult time for so many of our ensemble performers. And so I just, my heart goes out to y'all, and I know we're up again. I do want to ask, does everybody have we have some time to do final shout outs? Anybody want to shout out somebody special? Sarah, you got anybody to shout out today before we sign off here?
Yeah, I'm going to shout out to the cast that was Sister Act at the Fifth Avenue. We were in the middle of tech when all this happened, and we were all really sad that no one ever got to see her. I think, Orlando, maybe you saw it, but like nobody will get to see all the hard work we put into it. So I'm shouting them out because that was the last thing I did at the Fifth Avenue, and like I miss them all. So to you all.
Rico, you got anybody you want to shout out?
That was going to be my shout out. I have, I'm going to shout out Jackson Reagan. He was Tony in West Side for the Rising Star Project last year, or this past year, and he recently got into CCM, so I just wanted to give him a shout out and congrats to him. He reached out to me about working on dance, and it's just, my big thing is hard work, and he's like has shown the pinnacle of hard work. So shout out to him.
Yeah, a lot of South End pride today. We got from Hannah and then Jackson. Ooh, I didn't know that. That makes me kind of emotional. So I'm gonna pass it off to Nik. Nik, who do you want to shout out today before we sign off?
I feel like it's a cop out, but I shout out to everybody for like showing up, doing a thing, you know, and you know, taking one day at a time. It's a crazy and unpredictable time, and I think, you know, you owe it to yourselves, and we owe it to ourselves to just be happy and proud of ourselves for like waking up and doing things.
That's great. I totally agree. Sophie, last but not least, who are you shouting out today?
I'm shouting out celebrity chef Samin Nosrat, who is amazing. She is you've probably seen her on Netflix, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. She wrote an incredible cookbook. I didn't make the lasagna. My partner's mom made her lasagna, and it was the best lasagna of my whole life. So shout out to Samin for making the quarantine delicious.
This is the second week in a row that Samin has
coming
gotten a shout out. Yeah, so y'all really have to hop on this. Don't sleep on this podcast too, because even if you don't like cooking, if you're into puns, like I'm quite like I'm a pun connoisseur. Like that home cooking podcast is all about the puns. So check that out.
Samin have a podcast?
Yes. Oh, girl, you gotta check it out. No, you gotta check it out.
I'm going
and
right
I just
now.
assigned you a girl.
We just
moniker,
made
if that's
Sophie's
okay.
weekend plans.
All right, I knew what you meant. I know
Yeah.
that girl is not gendered.
Yeah, I use it on my brothers too. So, thank you again. If you all out there are interested in supporting Fridays at the Fifth, we're here every week. You can text 5TH to 56512, 5TH to 56512 to receive a link about how to help us out. And I think I am super excited about next week as well. We're going to be joined by Catherine Van Meter and Desmona Chang. We're going to be talking about being just amazing directors, and also about kind of looking at narratives and how we can interrupt them, to use Sophie's word a little bit.
Yes.
So, tune in next week. Thank you again for kicking it with us today. One day we're going to be back at the theater, but until then, keep washing those hands. Stay safe, make art, keep having real conversations about what's happening in our world and our country and our communities, and keep on keeping on. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye. Thank you so much to our panel again.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.